alarm is numb, the Keurig's clean. Your dog is dead, it's a Ponzi screen. Ponzi screen, Ponzi screen, because it's just something to do.
I'm here. Yeah, I got Mr. Kevin. He's hanging out. He's being very, very nice. We love him very much. He's so nice.
Fishel's been so much better.
Look at him. He's so nice.
I feel like Fishel's become actually a better cat since we got the puppy. My house is turning into a zoo for those who don't know, and Fishel's just become a more like paternal figure in the house. It's really sweet to see.
I sincerely doubt that. I feel like that dog is jumping around all over the place.
Dude, yeah, I got some LED grow lights to keep my plants acting right. They got some new lights as a treat.
Yeah.
In your breakup, did you guys split the plants with you and Amber?
Yes. Yeah. But she only took one. I kept the rest. So it was an uneven trade.
Nice, dude. Dudes rock.
Yeah.
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 Plants are.
I got the green thumb.
A racket.
Yeah.
Dude, plants are a racket. Like you can. It's my best friend Carrie. She'll like call me every once in a while, and she was just like, "I went to IKEA, and all of the fiddle leaf figs were half off." And I was like, "Oh, cool. How much did it cost?" And she's like, $30. I was like, "These were $60 beforehand. Like this is." Jesus Christ.
I love that line. Plants are a racket. I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
plants
man.
Are a racket.
Yeah, dude. Like just out like decontextualized from like IKEA or spending. I just like the idea of you're like walking around a national park and you're like, man, these plants are a fucking racket, man. Like
yeah.
Hey, I work for the big plant lobby. You know? That guy.
Dude.
Where's Big Plant Lobby?
Yeah.
It's the Jolly Green Giant. That's who's big plant. And he's wearing like a suit, but it seems really it feels wrong, like when Beast from X-Men wears a suit where you're just sort of like, come on, man, I know you don't want to be wearing a shirt. Like, but wear that Jolly Green Giant vest that you're so accustomed to.
Can you imagine Smokey the Bear in a suit? I wouldn't like that at all.
He wears pants. He's like a reverse Pooh Bear. He wears no shirt, but he wears pants.
He is a reverse Pooh Bear.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, I'm like fucking high from that statement. Okay.
Well,
yeah.
And he's trying to be official because not only does he wear pants, but he also wears a hat. But no shirt. So he's like, I need this hat to show people who's the boss around here. But it's too hot to wear a shirt.
I wonder if the other animals like respect him or if they think he's kind of like a capo for like the government. Like he's like why are you trying to be the man? Why are you trying to be the authority figure over the rest of us? We're just animals out here not wearing clothes.
Uh-huh. He's not like a capo. If he were a capo, then like if that would be like if you were like collaborating with the Trump administration to destroy the rainforest.
With Zinke, right? Trump's old head of
yeah.
They're like if he's showing up and he's like, look, we've got to open up look, guys, I know you squirrels and marmots and beavers are really enjoying your habitat over here, but we've got some oil pipelines under here we've really got to build.
Yeah. We just discovered some lithium in Yosemite, and Elon Musk is trying to actually buy Wyoming now, I think is the latest.
Wyoming is very, oh my God, Wyoming is so savage. Wyoming is so savage. I'm Elon Musk now.
This is the is the gritty remake I want to see of like a Smokey the Bear cartoon.
I've actually never heard Elon Musk talk before.
Really?
You could say he talks like anyone. I have no idea.
Elon Musk, he has sort of like a kind of gross. He talks like his name sounds. He kind of has like his voice is like a snail trail, just like I just can't believe that blah 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 blah. Like because he has a residual South African accent that doesn't completely. It's like 25% there now,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also kind of Englishy sounding too. And yeah, he sounds like his face, which is kind of gross, you know.
Grimes. You could say grimy.
Grimy.
Perhaps.
He's quite well. No, grimy is giving it too much credit because grime is like cool, but he's just gross. It's just gross.
And do you feel a duty to pay them and make sure they're okay, despite the fact that you don't agree with how they feel about COVID versus how you feel about
Just
COVID?
move on.
Just move on. That's what you want to do.
Cara, I do not want to get into debate about COVID situation.
Okay. All right. Okay. I want to finish up talking about.
If you want to end the podcast now, we can do it.
Okay. What do you say? No, we don't. I don't want to end it. I just want to understand where you've at. But I do. I feel like I understand where you are.
Oh, man.
Insert clip of him. Insert clip of Elon Musk talking.
I'm going to listen to
it.
I'm going to listen to it eventually. I'll just skip over this part of the episode so I can live purely.
No, he's disgusting. And also he has no inflection to his voice. So when he's like, I'm so excited to share the new Tesla with you. It's going to be oh my gosh, it's so cool. It's
his Twitter, like the way that he talks on, the way that he tweets, it seems like he should be set. He's like, we're gonna coup whoever we want. Like that's what I like. When I look at his face and when I look at his Twitter, like with his Twitter inflections, I feel like it's just much like crasser and American, you know, and little and fratty, you know. But I guess okay, all right. Well, welcome to Ponzi Scheme, everyone. It's just not that.
It's not. But I'm sorry, David. It's not.
Okay. Well, welcome to Ponzi Scheme. I'm David Bradley Eisenberg. With me, as always.
What's up, everybody? It's Gabe Pacheco.
Yep, and I'm Elon Musk, and for Halloween, I've decided to dress up like Smokey the Bear. It's great. Oh man, it's so cool.
So today we're talking about some cool things. First, I think that first on the list is Robert Kraft, Monsieur Robert Kraft, the former owner of he's still the owner of the New England Patriots.
Yeah, he just sort of slid by that and still owns the Patriots, you know.
Still owns the Patriots. Still owns them. Yeah. So they were I don't know if we remember this, but this happened a few years ago, but he was arrested for soliciting prostitution in Jupiter, Florida, Orchids of Asia Day Spa. All right, buddy.
That's right.
All right.
That's some classic Florida shit right there. And what do you mean? Do we remember this, David? That's like that is like one of the forever stains on. It's not a stain in the fact that he went to a sex worker. It's just a line item that I don't think he'll ever be able to scrub out with a magic eraser. You know, that's always there for Mr. Robert Kraft.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't really have that much of a beef with like high profile people visiting prostitutes or cheating. That sort of stuff that's just kind of not really my business. And if as long as it's consensual, but this one sounds like it was a brothel that was dealing with human trafficking. So that's where, you know, for me, as a male feminist, I say no to slavery. But that's just
thank you, David.
That's just me. I don't know how Gabe feels about it. You know,
I love. There are two words I love: traffic and human. And so when you put those two things together, I'm all into it.
Yeah,
you know,
the band Traffic or
both. The movie Traffic. I love the movie Traffic. The band.
Yeah.
The song Crosstown Traffic.
Oh yeah. Oh, that one's so good. Yeah. By
who did that?
Elon
Musk.
It was Elon Musk. Yeah.
I thought you were about to say Elon Omar. Elon Omar did Crosstown Traffic. That sounds like a Billy Joel song if I ever heard one.
Well,
it was definitely Jimi Hendrix.
So we can all agree here at Ponzi Scream, this is a sex positive podcast. At least it's 1/3 sex positive. On my end.
So Gabe, how's the dating life going?
No. No. This is a sex negative podcast from this corner of the podcast. All right. This isn't to say that anybody shouldn't be allowed to consensually engage. No sex. Sex is bad. It's bad and it's wrong. So we have Gabe on one end of the corner and then me on the other end, and David just sandwiched in the middle.
We've got
David's in the monogamy corner. Just one guy. Me and one other guy that I've sex with all the time.
David's a third way boy. We got dry boys, wet boys, and third way fun happening here on this podcast.
Yeah. And we have Robert Kraft who got his charges dropped against him. All right. So
how did he do that?
Was the headline "Pay Pig skates by free"?
Yeah.
Little Piggy loves his sex, doesn't go to jail. Florida masseuse ordered to pay $31,573 after, quote, soliciting Robert Kraft to, quote, commit prostitution. Oh my God, this is in Reason magazine. So
no,
I saw this in Reason, and the head it just says charges against Kraft were parentheses rightly dismissed. The women he patronized now have criminal records.
So they still get scarlet letters, right? That's the problem here, huh? Because we're pro sex work as well on Ponzi Scream.
Yes.
And what we're seeing here is that the oligarch gets by with no problem, but the employees, the people who are working for him, are the ones that are going to get a criminal record.
Yeah, and they may as well. They may be victims of human trafficking, and now they have to pay $31,000 in fines for daring to agree to an offer by Robert Kraft to engage in sex. I guess he went to their spa. What did he expect? I
don't know. I kind of think because Robert Kraft is a billionaire, right? He's very wealthy, right?
I don't know what level he's at, but the boy's got some money.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, obviously he's in the wrong here. It's obvious to anybody looking at this that he, was that. Oh my God, he has 6.6 billion. He's not even. Yeah, he has a lot of billions. Yeah, but my thing is he's just at that level of wealth where he probably just went into this place. With an and then they were like, "Hey, do you want us to do this too?" And he was just sort of like, "Yeah, I'm a billionaire. Who cares? I can't be hurt." And then he just did that,
Right. So on November 30th, the masseuse, we can leave their name out. They don't need the attention. Pled guilty to one count of soliciting another to commit prostitution, and authorities finally agreed to return her passport and phone and unfreeze her bank account. This person was sentenced to 1 year on probation, which includes 100 hours of community service, and submitting to the state results of HIV and STD test.
No.
Wow.
Now, let me guess, Robert Kraft doesn't have to submit his health report.
I'm pretty sure that he walked away completely.
Yeah.
Scot-free on this one. Yeah, there was just no one should have faced. Okay, so
I feel like there was sort of a weird rehabilitation of Robert Kraft after this happened because he got caught soliciting a sex worker, and then over the following 2 years, people were just sort of like, yeah, he did this, but also he's not that bad of a guy considering he's a billionaire. Also, I'm looking at I googled Robert Kraft's net worth, and now I'm just on football team owners, and they all have more money than him. Jerry Jones has $8.4 billion. The guy who owns the Panthers has $13 billion. They're so fucking rich.
It's kind of one of those things that you do when you have an insane amount of money is buy a football team because it's such good money, and it's one of those things where it's like all boys who want to make a lot of money love sports and love football especially. And so it's just kind of like, it's such a fun thing to say that you own, being like, oh yeah, I own the Houston, that team, the Houston team. And so you just,
the Texans, David. Come on.
So you can just say that. I don't know. So I mean, it makes sense that a lot of them are billionaires, because it's not that like the position requires being a billionaire or rakes in $1 billion. It's that billionaires want that asset. So anyways, Robert Kraft, apparently soliciting another to commit prostitution is just a misdemeanor in Palm Beach County, Florida. And so no one was ever charged with human trafficking in it. I don't know, man. This is just some exciting stuff. I mean, is this even a white collar crime?
This is a gray collar crime, because he's a white collar person,
right,
sort of dipping his toe into sort of a like, blue collar, area.
Yeah.
He's like in a Robin Eggs blue sort of situation now, he's mixing for sure.
Well,
it is weird that
I just the imbalance in what I see is just how inequitable the way that the law is prosecuted is. That's what this is about, where he is a billionaire who goes to a massage parlor and solicit and pays for sex, and then he walks away scot-free. But these poor, possibly trafficked immigrants and small business owners are fined outrageous amounts of money. So that's where it's not necessarily a white collar crime, but it shows you that how lenient we are towards white collar people.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, it should go without saying that, like, obviously these women were screwed over, by the system, and the only thing you can do at this point, because that system is so crooked, is just make fun of Robert Kraft as much as humanly possible, and all NFL team franchise owners, including Virginia McCaskey, who owns the Chicago Bears and is 97 years old. My God, she is so old. And she also has $1.5 billion.
What if, as a condition of getting released, Robert Kraft had to sell Tom Brady to Jacksonville? That's how that's how he ended up in Jacksonville.
Oh my God, I love that theory. That's such a good theory.
Wait, is he in Tampa Bay or is he in Jacksonville? He's in one of the Florida teams now, isn't he?
He's in the Buccaneers. He's not a Jag. He's in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
My point stands, man. My point stands. That's a Florida team. This is his he just lost Tom Brady. And he lost Gronkowski, the scariest man on earth, the Frankenstein himself.
That's right.
So
who's apparently really into weed. Gronkowski.
Cool.
Yeah, he likes to puff big clouds.
Yeah. I think that, Gabe, I kind of push back on that a little bit. I mean, it's like, think about the equivalent crime, the equivalent problems. I mean, this guy, Robert Kraft, he engaged in prostitution, and he lost football players that have no pecuniary impact on his life, whereas these women could spend the rest of their life in debt and go to jail and maybe have their lives completely ruined. I mean, to me, it seems equitable. I don't really see what you're talking about here. This doesn't.
Honestly, this is what we get. We get petty criminal activity fined, because we're trying to defund the police. And if you're gonna try to defund the police, how are they gonna make money unless they go after and fine these, massage parlor workers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is weird to me that soliciting is a misdemeanor. That seems like that's not really helping anything. Like, if you really want to crack down on prostitution and make it an illegal act, then crack down on the people who actually have the agency, which is the Johns. Like if you don't, you know, like that's the behavior. If you see it as like a illicit behavior, the guys that are doing it are engaging in the illicit behavior. Like the prostitutes are just seeing the demand and meeting it basically and using it as a way to survive. But that's not really, I don't, what they're doing by offering themselves up, I don't really think is like the actual, I don't know. If you see it as a nasty thing, which like is stupid and like Puritan, you know, but I don't know. It's just it should piss us off, and like I don't know. I feel like this thing kind of got like it was a big like whoopsies and a big like embarrassing situation for this billionaire to have to deal with this. But meanwhile, like the women's lives are probably ruined as a result of this. You know, there are these human trafficking victims now like owe extra money and have to like submit, you know, sex tests to the state. Just crazy. Like what does the evidence of HIV prove or disprove anything in their criminality of any kind? It's just a stigma. It's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous.
Moving on.
Here. Okay, so the crazy story that we want to talk about today is what's going on in Venezuela.
Beautiful Venezuela.
I don't do any of you guys know what like a Venezuelan Spanish accent is? I know that, you know, like in Argentina they say Argentina and they say like me llamo David, because like there's different ways of doing it. Did any of you guys take any Spanish? Gabe, do you know Spanish? Danny, you know Spanish?
No. I don't know officially for Venezuela, but if I were to hazard a guess, I would say it would probably be a fairly orthodox version of Spanish. And the only reason I say that is because of its proximity to Ecuador, which isn't super far away, because Ecuadorian Spanish is like the Spanish they teach American people in like American high schools, because it's like super by the book, very straightforward, you know, there's no like flourishes or anything like that.
Meat and potatoes, every vowel and consonant pronounced phonetically.
Doing the thing. I remember Colombian Spanish being very formal. Like they use, I think they use like vosotros and stuff like that there, in addition to just outside. Or maybe they, no, I don't know. No. Formalities.
Colombian Spanish is flowery. It's sort of like it has like a lilt to it a little bit, apparently. So who knows exactly? I imagine. I don't know. We'll have to look. We'll have to look into this. Yes, but Venezuela.
Ponzi Scream and Venezuelan Spanish are just two ships passing in the night.
Folks, turns out Venezuelan Spanish, way more like a Caribbean style Spanish that you would encounter in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. So it's a little faster. It's on the coast. It's a land-based Caribbean Spanish-speaking country. Yeah. All right.
We're just never going to understand each other. So anyways, but really what's going on is a really strange situation. Basically, it all goes down to the ownership of its oil. Okay, so let's start with in the Venezuelan constitution, the oil firm, it's called PDVSA. I keep wanting to say PVDSA. But it's not related to the Democratic Socialists of America. But PDVSA, they are owned by the Venezuelan government. Now, that may come as a surprise to a lot of people because in the United States, we don't really have nationalized industries. But in the Venezuelan constitution, assets that are owned by the Venezuelan government have certain procedures that, you know, need to be required. Some say that, you know, like the National Assembly needs to approve certain things. Some say that the president needs to approve certain things. So this makes up 95% of the state's oil revenue, of its export revenue, excuse me. So this is like all of the United States is like, imagine like Hollywood, pharmaceutical industry, and what's a military, all that combined, all of those things together, just in one commodity, one state-owned company. So,
Marvel movies.
Just
yes.
Yeah. Marvel movies and Pete Buttigieg. And so the Venezuelan state is, currently run by Nicolas Maduro, although that is contested, right? They ostensibly have a president and a legislature and an executive. So there's like the three branches and everything. State is solely reliant on oil. And many people think of like this idea of like the petrostate is such a common phenomenon these days. Russia is a petrostate. Saudi Arabia is a petrostate. Maybe not quite as much, but to a degree, Nigeria is a petrostate. These are just like the only thing they got is oil. That's all they got.
Yeah, it's a weird situation where sometime about 1 billion years ago, the continents were forming, and just then we made this. Then states were made, and surprise, surprise, some of these states just sitting on billions of barrels of oil, and Venezuela just happens to be one of them, the main one, pretty much the only one in the South American area.
Yeah. As a result of that, the United States is very interested in Venezuelan politics. Venezuelan state PDVSA owns Citgo, which you may have seen the gas stations thereof. It's got the little orange circle with the blue stripes. So Citgo is the 8th largest oil company in the United States, with a refinery based in Houston. That's what we know so far. The structure is really important to understanding this, because this entire dispute, including all the crazy shit with Juan Guaido that we're going to get into, is all about the ownership of Citgo. Okay? This is all the dispute over that. And Juan Guaido is intricately connected to it. The ousting of Nicolas Maduro and the 2018 election, all very much tied to it. Okay? So it goes back to a couple, maybe like a decade ago, where they were, like any oil company, right? Or any sort of corporation, you're taking out loans. And what are loans? They are bonds. Issuing bonds, which are it's just a debt, right? That someone's going to pay back to you. Okay, so what happened at a certain point, this is kind of like in 2017, okay? They were getting close to defaulting on some bonds that they owed some money. They were trying to get it back, and there was $60 billion in missed payments from contractors and service companies that drill and maintain its fields. And the United States was not being super cooperative with Venezuelan bonds. Basically, there were these 6 guys, what are called the Citgo 6.
Citgo 6, okay.
The Citgo 6. They are oil executives. 5 of them are American citizens, okay, who worked for Citgo. Okay, so the thing is, so PDVSA owns Citgo, but Citgo is technically an independent corporation registered in Delaware. Okay, and
convenient.
God, that's it. There. Oh my, the obfuscation already. it's so much. It's so much.
Yeah. So Citgo is wholly owned by PDVSA, but it's still its own thing and has its own independent board of directors. And the board of directors are not government employees of the state of Venezuela.
They're they might, I don't know if they are Venezuelan, but for whatever reason they're a little over. They're not
right, so,
it.
So the theory behind corporations is that you separate ownership from control, right? Mm-hmm. Ownership, Venezuelan government, ergo the Venezuelan people. Profits go back to the Venezuelan people. And that's why nationalizing things is a good idea. The profits go back to the owners, which would be the citizens, right? Or in the case of Nicolas Maduro, it might not go so conveniently back to the people. It might be a little bit corrupt. I don't know. Who knows? We're not really sure.
Exactly.
Not really our business. But then the directors have a separate management system, and they are the ones who are managing it. Okay, so there are these Citgo 6 who in 2017. Okay, so the PDVSA and Citgo, they owe some money. Okay, and they try to refinance those loans. It's like refinancing your car, refinancing your mortgage. Okay, $4 billion in Citgo bonds. So they were supposed to default on it in 2017. They tried to refinance it without the permission of Nicolas Maduro or the National Assembly, okay? And they're trying to refinance it to some private American finance firm, basically, some energy financing firm, whatever. So on the condition that if they default, that firm gets 50% plus one ownership in Citgo.
Yeah, so here you can see this is the point where they're crossing like the imaginary line of just being like, even though they're not technically part of a nationalized oil petro state, like you said, they're crossing the line where now they're doing silly United States financial chicanery, as it would be, where they're like, okay, nobody's paying attention. Now we're going to try to steal it, essentially.
Right. So Nicolas Maduro accuses these Citgo 6 men of treason. He invites them down for what they thought was like a regular meeting because they regularly conduct affairs with the Venezuelan state. They go down for this meeting and they are arrested right then and there. And Maduro accuses them of treason, puts them in jail, shitty Venezuelan prison, and they've been there ever since, basically.
This is a bizarre story because when you first sent this over, I was like, oh, wow, recent news. This is so crazy. And then I look at the date and it's, wait, what? This happened in 2017 and we haven't heard anything about this in national press. Has not popped up once. Like at all the Venezuelan things. Juan Guaido, that's been a huge story the entire time. But I haven't heard of any of these Citgo 6 guys at all. Hasn't popped up once.
The only it's really getting coverage in the financial press because the people who are creditors care. They're the only ones that the press thinks that the only people who would care about this are potential bondholders in Citgo. Okay, so people who just have a stock portfolio that has some investments in Citgo oil. That's the only reason why that's getting coverage. Because it's always being framed as such, or it's being framed in like these are 6 men who are being held as political prisoners against their will. They've been wrongfully convicted. They've been in horrible Venezuelan prisons and stuff with no repercussion and no savior. Those have really been the only stories about this. But really, the Juan Guaido saga, which, as we kind of all remember, it hasn't really mentioned this sort of stuff, but we can go through the Juan Guaido saga really quick. So in 2018, there were presidential elections, and the essence of what it is that there was a contested election. A lot of people said that it was fraudulent, and Nicolas Maduro claimed victory. Juan Guaido was declared himself the winner, and the entire international press sided with Juan Guaido, and the U.S. backed regimes generally backed Juan Guaido, and I remember I think maybe obviously probably the only person who spoke out against declaring it for Juan Guaido is probably Bernie Sanders, from what I remember. This is kind of one of the places where Bernie really has a quite distinct different is in foreign policy. He truly has a very different foreign policy approach than anybody else who is kind of like a major Democratic figure in a lot of ways, in that he refused to kind of side in that sort of way because he recognizes that you don't want to intervene in foreign elections. And so Juan Guaido tries to claim victory. Meanwhile, the State Department and the CIA try to send in Green Berets to overthrow Nicolas Maduro in a coup and fail. And those Green Berets are still in Venezuelan jail today.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was like a mini Bay of Pigs where they're like, here, let's Bay of Pigs this with 2 dudes.
Yeah, it was just 2 dudes.
Yeah.
It was 2 dudes?
It's just 2 dudes.
They just sent 2 dudes to a gunfight like that? Mm-hmm. My God, they have no idea. Oh my God, the U.S. military.
This would be an amazing Adam McKay movie.
Yeah, or a Coen brother.
Yeah. Different tone, equally hilarious.
Yeah, it would be funny. Just like the two Green Berets, like George Clooney and Brad Pitt, probably. Just going, or one of the Coen brothers, very odd I don't know, their character actors that they rely on so heavily. Anyways,
It would be funny if John Malkovich did it.
John Malkovich and Will Ferrell.
Yeah, I'm
that.
going into Venezuela to overthrow a dictator.
Is that Elon Musk or
No, it's John Malkovich. God.
So after this 2018 elections and the coup attempt, Juan Guaido somehow, because of the Venezuelan constitution, there was in the constitution it says that any transactions that are done with state-owned enterprises have to be approved by the National Assembly. Juan Guaido remains the leader of the National Assembly. So he's kind of like Speaker of the House, right? And he's the opposition party to Nicolas Maduro. He runs the U.S. operations of Citgo. So Maduro is running every other part of the state, including the PDVSA, which owns Citgo. But Juan Guaido somehow has control of the U.S. portion thereof.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's it's a jumble. It's a jumble for sure, but it's like it does make sense. It's just like you could see why they did it. Why this shit is so confusing, because it's just like, yeah, it's just trying to purposefully obfuscate it, you know?
Yeah. So since the fraudulent election, Juan Guaido has gotten some control of the U.S. portion of Citgo. Maduro controls the rest of the government and ownership thereof. And the U.S. has imposed incredibly punitive sanctions against Venezuela. So they are going even broker. Okay, so all of these bonds, all of this debt that they have is accruing more and more and more. They're losing money. Okay, they owe more and more money. Maduro starts cracking down. The Citgo 6 is just the beginning, okay? So he starts going after anybody else in the PDVSA who might be disloyal to him, loyal to Juan Guaido, loyal, trying to get outside creditors with like some crazy deal to sell off part of the oil state company's assets, whatever. He starts imprisoning all these people to try and, crack down and maintain control of the state-owned enterprise. Because again, this is all Venezuela has. Yes. In the face of crippling sanctions, the only thing they have is this oil company, this ownership of Citgo. And so after he's trying to crack down on it, they owe even more money. And at this point, Juan Guaido is in a really weird position, right? Because he is both trying to claim himself as the legitimate sovereign of the state of Venezuela, but he also wants to be amicable to like the United States, right? And to kind of these sorts of like capitalist powers. So he is doing a weird dance where he is advocating that these bonds are invalid, the ones that the Citgo 6 tried to execute, because he doesn't want it to get privatized either, because then he loses his stake in Citgo. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So he's got two enemies. He's got Maduro to the south, and then he's got the American venture capitalists to the north.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
He's between a rock and a hard place, and that sucks for a CIA asset.
Yeah. Yeah, he's really in a position where he can't fucking pick a side. He can't just like shit or get off the pot in this situation, because if you're the like you said, if you're the Venezuelan president, you got to be against the United States to an effect, but like Gabe said, it's really hard to do that if you're part of the CIA. It's really hard to do that if you are intrinsically trying to butter up to the United States. So he's just like trying to have it both ways.
Yeah, I feel like he is trying to have it both ways.
It's a sour pickle.
He asserts that there was a stolen election, but he also wants to maintain nationalist sovereignty over Venezuela. And I just don't think he realizes that that's not how it works for the United States. That illegitimate elections are contested because of their oil assets. it's not because we actually like Juan Guaido and we think he's a better leader. It's because American capitalists want to gain control over Citgo. They want to get some of the start getting some of the profits. They want to privatize Citgo, essentially.
Yeah, there's a reason that the United States plays ball with Saudi Arabia, and it's because they play ball with us. They're
Right.
like, yeah, like the only reason that Caracas in Venezuela is in the turmoil it is because they're like, no, we don't want to play ball with the United States, and OPEC
Right.
is just like, oh, we'll play ball, you know.
I mean, it's the same thing with Iran, which, you know, this goes all the way back to 1953. I mean, this is the stuff we've been seeing for generations of U.S. foreign policy. And speaking of generations, actually, I want to do a quick pause. The people who are doing the negotiations are none other than Bill Richardson, who ran for president in 2008 on the Democratic Party, and, of course, Elliot Abrams.
No.
Sir Death Squad's Elliot Abrams.
Yes, sir. Yeah, El Mazote, Elliot Abrams.
All right. Okay.
I mean,
well, that's a ghoulish pairing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does that negotiation even look like? Elliot Abrams going like, okay, there's 6 of our guys in here. Here's my offer on the table. You get to brutally murder all 6 of them. And they're like, this isn't, you're on the other side. What are you doing? It's like, I'm just evil. You don't understand that. I'm a bad guy.
Just go for it. So that's what the stakes are. Those are the guns that America is bringing to this fight, and that's its position. Personnel is policy in this sort of a situation, and when you have like CIA director turned Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Elliot Abrams involved in a situation, you know exactly the tenor of the Americans' negotiating position. So they're all saying, like, on Fox News and everyone, you know, like the whole thing, like the New York Times did a human interest story. All the Western press has kind of just all said, like, you know, these imprisoned men who are, you know, one of them just got put on house arrest because Bill Richardson did some diplomatic humanitarian intervention, but the rest of them are sitting in prison. They just got sentenced to 10 years in prison. Maybe one of them got 13 years because he's a Venezuelan citizen, I think. And they are all just, you know, the whole story is just hearing from their daughters who are in Houston and crying about not having them coming home for Thanksgiving. And then when they get to the allegations, the story, they always, like almost every single American story that I read about the Citgo 6 had the exact same paragraph describing the events and describing the allegations. And it's just like this, no one was willing to look into it anymore and describe like what they actually did, you know, and then like maybe Fox News elaborated on a little bit more, but they just went deeper into it. Fox News said, you know, so there's this one paragraph, the Citgo 6 are oil executives who in 2017 attempted to refinance $4 billion in Citgo bonds by offering a 50% stake in the company as collateral. And they say that every single time. And then afterwards they say Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro accused them of treason. And Fox News added on to that, and they said, it was mostly assumed that the Americans were innocent and being used as pawns amid deteriorating relations between Washington and the Venezuelan-helmed Nicolas Maduro regime, which have since severed diplomatic ties. It's like there's no real discussion of whether they did it or not.
Well, yeah, they're just obfuscating the actual issue right here, because you know when you take what they're alleging, you have to mask it in this financial jargon that very few people understand.
Right.
And that, or even though it's not even that complicated, it's just sort of like muddled up. Right. But if you told somebody, if you framed it differently and you said, these guys took this stuff that belonged to a whole group of people and then sold it as if it was theirs, but it wasn't, and then they got sent to jail. like that, then people will be like, oh, that's right.
The oil company belongs to the Venezuelan people, and they tried to sell it to an American group of investors. And then they got invited back on an airplane to Caracas for arepas at a nice meeting. And while they're in the boardroom, like a Godfather 3 type scene happens, but instead of a helicopter shooting them all, as should have happened, they got taken to jail for due process, which sounds like great and the right thing to do if you believe in a legal process. Mm-hmm. And too fucking bad if they can't have Thanksgiving dinner in Miami with their granddaughters, because no Americans had Thanksgiving dinner with their family this year because of COVID-19. So fuck them. And also their oil executives, which automatically has divorced them from the rest of the human race. So have none of them seen an inconvenient truth? Are none of them paying attention to Hurricane Maria? Do none of them watch any of the global? Have none of them heard a single speech from our matron saint on Ponzi scheme, Greta Thunberg?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Fuck these dudes.
Ponzi scheme brought to you by Davos.
And it's even sweeter that they're American citizens. That's even sweeter. So, because we never, our citizens never pay for crimes committed against humanity.
Yeah, it's I think it's I think it is funny because it reminds me of our discussion with Kate Aronoff about how one of the things that, like, you know, environmental groups are trying to charge executives with is this idea of crimes against humanity. like using that exact phraseology, and it because it's kind of the only way, the only expansive enough to sort of describe exactly what's happening. So when you get a situation where actual oil executives, people who, you know, executives, people who are in charge of a big thing, when they're actually being held accountable for actions, you know, it's almost unheard of in the United States as a general concept. Like, there's many things that are difficult for me to understand or imagine, but the thing that is probably furthest away in my head from any divorced from reality entirely is like anybody like Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates or anybody like that seeing any jail time for any of the various, like, you know, bullshit that they've done as well. It's like, if you're an executor, if you're a CEO, if you're one of those people, you just straight up don't go to jail. You know, Donald Trump, a guy who's like very guilty of many weird little pieces of chicanery, will probably never see a day in jail. So when you hear about actual executives like, nah, they're actually going to jail, it's like, whoa.
They've been in Venezuelan jail, which has been hit really fucking hard by U.S. sanctions. Like, they are getting, the whole country is starving and has been as a result of these sanctions. And then the defense attorneys for the Citgo 6 are saying on humanitarian grounds they need to be released from prison because of the starvation conditions in the Venezuelan prison. I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? Like, it's a little ridiculous to say that, like, well, the United States is trying to punish Venezuela for its activities related to the U.S. election, the Citgo 6, and the fact that it has a nationalized oil industry, and but you can't punish. But, like, when the people that it's imprisoning are facing those direct consequences, all of a sudden, like, they get some sort of, like, I don't know, legal reprieve from those sorts of things. No, this is the concept. This is like, they are feeling, the Citgo 6 are feeling what every Venezuelan citizen is feeling, you know? And you, like, these men committed, like, a huge white collar crime, embezzlement. Usually embezzlement doesn't result in starvation prison time, right, in the United States. But these men were attempting and it hasn't been proven or disproven. You know what? For all we fucking know, they could be innocent. We don't actually know that. But they have been alleged with attempting to sell off the majority ownership of an entire country's sole revenue source to private capitalists.
Yeah.
It's a big fucking deal. It's a big fucking deal. Okay? I mean, it's, yeah.
It's like the scene in Dark Knight. Like, I'm imagining all of Venezuela's money is in this giant hangar in a pyramid, and these dudes are just like pouring gasoline on it, like the Joker.
Yeah.
That's like, so, it might seem like it's a victimless crime because you're not killing anyone, but the end result of them selling off that entire the entire oil industry in the U.S. would be to starve the Venezuelan people in perpetuity.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
since this is go ahead, Danny.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's very, very ironic that you're finally put in a position where they're like, you gotta send our boys home. This is cruel. And then somebody could just come up to them and be like, so you're saying that it's a bad situation there? Like, yes, it's it's terrible. It's horrible. Well, why is it so bad? Well, it's because people don't have anything to eat and it's so bad they can't eat anything. Oh no, it's so terrible. Well, why? Well, that's because of your fucking sanctions. And then they have to be like, no. Shut up.
Yeah,
no.
They are starving the very people that they are, like, the United States government is starving the very people that are sitting in prison and that they are trying to say are starving.
Exactly.
So it's still ongoing. There's some lawsuits in New York that just recently happened. Basically, Citgo tried to assert that these bonds were invalid, and a U.S. District Court judge ruled that they were in fact valid. So Juan Guaido is in that rock and a hard place, right? He's trying to be the legitimate, leader of the Venezuelan government, trying to assert its stake in Citgo, but he's also not Nicolas Maduro. So he's in this lawsuit in New York, and they're trying to get to say that these bonds are invalid. And the judge said that because the bonds were executed in New York, the deal was done on American soil, and the contract of the deal said that New York law governed. Ergo, the Venezuelan Constitution is not the governing law of the contract.
Wah, wah.
Which means that, so their argument was, Juan Guaido's argument was, this was an invalid bond because it did not have approval from the National Assembly, which is in the Constitution. It's in the Venezuelan Constitution that if there's any sort of big deal that takes place with the PDVSA, that it needs to have approval from the National Assembly. And the judge basically said the Constitution does not govern here. The Constitution of Venezuela does not govern here because it was New York capitalists taking place in New York, and it was in New York interests, and New York is the number one city in the world. Go Yankees.
Yeah. It's the number one in the world. 27 rings, baby. Shut up.
Yeah. So what that basically means is that they're saying that the bonds are valid, but the ruling does not pave way. This is from Reuters. The ruling does not pave way for creditors to immediately seize shares in Citgo's parent. The U.S. government has used its sanctions on Venezuela aimed at ousting President Nicolas Maduro to prevent bondholders from taking such action through at least January 2021. You know when those expire? They expire January 19th, 2021, the day before Biden takes office. Fun fact.
Yeah.
So Guaido's team took control of Citgo last year after he was recognized by the U.S. government as Venezuela's rightful leader. And Guaido's overseas representatives, they stopped making payments on the bonds last year. Maduro, labeled a dictator by the opposition and dozens of countries, has accused Guaido of seeking to steal Citgo. As a result of all of this stuff, a lot of Guaido loyalists on the board of directors of Citgo have stepped down in protest, including someone with Gabe Pacheco's last name, and that's it is starting to raise questions about what Juan Guaido actually wants. Is he trying to steal Citgo? Is he trying to steal Venezuela? What does he want, folks?
Baby, it's beautiful because and not the suffering of the Venezuelan people, but rather watching just some prep school fucking Jared Kushner, lookalike just absolutely squeal. Just like can't it's that right, like literally damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's just like what? You got yourself into this, buddy. Let's see you get yourself out. You fucking suck.
So that's where we're basically at right now. And it is, I don't know why it's not really getting much press coverage, because this is the story with Venezuela. This is what's actually at stake. This is not really about democracy transition. Obviously, America doesn't care about democracy. Obviously, Trump doesn't care about democracy. I mean, there's no the mask is off, but there's still no coverage of this suit and these ownership disputes with this Venezuelan oil because
no, it's exactly what you said, David. It's just people, people. It's a little too confusing for people to completely comprehend. And obviously, if you put some sort of press release out there that said like there's a U.S. citizen being held without bail in Venezuela, the chuds would go, oh my God, like they'd absolutely lose their shit.
Mm-hmm.
But they know that if you just take the teeniest little look into this, it's just like, oh no, this is stupid. This is dumb and stupid.
This is kind of a funny thing. This came out in May. Nicolas Maduro was trolling the United States, and he said, unlike the United States, Venezuela has same-day poll results. So this is actually being recorded today. The day that it's being recorded is Sunday. There are parliamentary elections in Venezuela. So that means Nicolas Maduro is not up for election, but Juan Guaido could lose his control of the National Assembly, presumably.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying that Nicolas Maduro said that he will accept the results of the December 6th parliamentary elections, regardless of the outcome. I mean, it's amazing that people can describe someone like Nicolas Maduro as a thug or a dictator or an autocrat or whatever sort of kind of ad hominem pejorative you want to throw on him, when we have someone just as we've just truly had someone as horrible and anti-democratic and ruthless as Donald Trump, who's and George W. Bush, and who name whatever president you want, but there's just no real moral high ground that is even a veneer, and the only thing that we can really do is just not talk about it. I think that's really the issue. It's not that we just can't really. If this were an issue that were really talked about, then it would be just clearly the United States is trying to expropriate the wealth of a poor oil state, right? But so instead they're just not going to talk about it at all.
It's funny because we sort of lack the sort of direct, vocabulary that we sort of had, I would say, in like the early 2000s when the Iraq War was in full swing, and protesters were like, we're just going in there for oil. I remember that, like, or that was a very finely put piece of accurate propaganda that was said about the Iraq War, but it just hasn't taken hold in this Venezuela situation in a way that the public can be like, oh, this is fucked. Oh no, this is totally fucked. That people can't associate with it quite yet,
So tell your friends. But this is a really insane story that I really do think that needs a little bit more press coverage, and better press coverage. Really is maybe a better way to put it. I'm sure that if there was some independent Spanish media or Latin American media that maybe is covering this a little bit better than what we're seeing in Reuters or the New York Times or Fox News. But it's a strange story, and we hope that there is a just resolution for the Venezuelan people. And Gabe's right, the planet. This is all oil. Oil is bad. Okay. That's oil's bad. Oil's bad, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, honestly, earlier when you were like, "There's all these petrol states out there," I just immediately was like blackpilled, because it's like, oh, who fucking cares about any of this? Because if all of these countries all rely exclusively on oil, then we're never going to have any transformation to a sustainable economy that doesn't rely on destroying the planet. So there's no good in this, because we should depose and topple, or not we, but there has to be a transformation in Venezuela's economy, as well as ours, as well as Russia's, as well as Saudi Arabia's. And is there any chance for some sort of transnational unity around that?
It's hard. Dude, Russia still likes fucking, what's that stuff that gives you mesothelioma? Asbestos. They're still mining asbestos. Wow. They're just like, yeah, shit, this shit rocks. Yeah. We love it.
But in the short term, to have 6 American oil executives be detained on foreign soil and have to pay for their crimes against humanity, then that's at least some Schadenfreude I can get.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it is like, that's definitely true, and it's a question of what is actually going to lead away from the reliance on fossil fuels. Is it going to be a state-owned enterprise, or is it going to be capitalism? And the jury's still out. I really don't. I'm not really convinced that there's one or the other that's going to actually be like a better steward of winding down fossil fuel production.
Yeah. We'll see. Nicolas Maduro, he's a bit of a chubby bunny. He's a bit crude. There's those great videos of him like doing a release or a press release, and then he'll just like dip below the desk and he starts eating like a pastele, and it's
really?
like, oh, it's hilarious. Where he's just like eating, he's just like actively eating food while the Venezuelan people are very hungry. So it's like, yeah, that's bad. You shouldn't do that.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, he doesn't seem like a great guy.
Yeah,
I mean, at least for that, and all these petro oligarchs, not good guys. But again, it's just a matter of like, would you rather see oil profits being held privately with a profit motive, or would you rather see oil profits being nationalized and ostensibly owned by the people, and have some democratic accountability to it. And for me, it seems like I don't know, the latter, I guess, would be probably a better way to like wind down fossil fuel production. But okay, all right, we've said enough.
Yeah. Sounds like you're asking me to choose between Trump and Biden.
Something like that. Yeah. Okay, well, that's Ponzi Scream. That's it.